Have you ever wondered what games you should keep or you should lose? Find out here at Purge Reviews.
Comic Hunters is a board game from Brazil that's about collecting comic books. Now, it should be stated that this is based on the Marvel license, and all of the comic books in the game are real comic books that you can collect in real life. That adds a lot of realism to the game, and it's very, very fun. This game is all about getting those collections. Now, what's interesting about it is you're not a billionaire, so you have to kind of sell off or trade your comics to pay for other ones. So when you draft, let's say, 10 cards, each card is going to have a cost on it. That cost is I have to discard other cards from my hand to pay for those comic books as I put them into my final collection. You can't just go out and get this really expensive comic book. You can, but it'll cost you other comic books. And the comic books kind of is your play money, if you will. So it's like selling off your board games to get a new board game. We've all done that before, right? That's the aspect of this game. Now, where this game is really brilliant is there's different ways to get cards. You go to convention, you kind of move things around. Now we give you different eras. You can go buy the brand new ones, and you kind of draft those in this way. So the game has 4 different drafts, but each round you're only going to do 3 of them. 3 of the 4 ways. So each round feels a little unique in how you're getting cards, and certain cards from certain genre or from certain decades will be available in certain drafts, if you will. So sometimes it'll be a little more difficult for you to get like an older one, but you know next round it'll probably be more readily available. Although when you go to the cons, you can kind of get a mixture of a whole lot of things. So you'll be collecting different aspects. There's all kinds of set collection. This you can collect certain types of superheroes, or maybe you want a certain type like a versus, or you want collaborations. So there's all those things you have. In each game you play, they may score a little bit differently, so you're not always going after the same thing. And you kind of piece these together as you build your collection. You can move them around when you're doing this set collection. So a lot of drafting, a lot of that whole hand management of like, I got to use the cards I want so bad to pay for the ones I really want to. And then you have the set collection on top of it. And there's a lot of it in this game. It's a thinky little game, and it's not very hard to teach per se, although there are 4 different ways to gain cards, so you kind of have to go through that. It's almost good to play a round of the game, and you're like, okay, I got everything down. It can be a little tricky after the first play. I think it's simple enough that you'll have it, and you'll be like, that's great. And I think the realism of the real-life comic book covers on this is fantastic. And based on number of players, you'll be able to pull some of the cards out, so it balances fairly well between different playing ages. In range of players. I found the game to be very, very fun. I like the aspect of collecting these cards and having my own little collections that every game I play is going to be a little bit different based on the scoring and what I'm going after and what's available to me and what I can hunt down in those little conventions and stuff and what I'm able to grab before anybody else does. Do they know that this is worth so much money to me, etc.? And that's kind of the fun of this and collecting comic books. I've never been an avid comic book reader. I've never collected comic books. I don't think I've ever owned one in my life. But I still found the aspect and the theme of this to really come alive to me. I don't know much about Marvel outside of the MCU. I don't read the comics or anything like that. But I just found the collecting of it to be very fun. And this is a very fun thing. I think most people are aware of collecting like baseball cards. They're aware of collecting comic books. So it became very natural for this to be in that aspect. I heard that they import this over to the US. They may have to change the theme. I think collecting baseball cards would be a great fit for this. Most people kind of know that aspect of collecting cards. I think that would be something that would really sell, but that's neither here nor there. This is one that you can track down. It's fairly language independent. There are some rules on BGG you can easily download and play. And this is what I would highly recommend for you to check out, whether you're a Marvel fan or not. Keeper for us. Here is Comic Hunters, which you can see is made to look kind of like a comic book on the front. When you open it up, now I put these in because I sleeved all of my cards and I wanted them set up in a different levels. So what you're going to have here is the level 1s, and you're going to have what's going to look like exactly like comic books. These are actual comic books that you can go to the store and you can purchase with different icons across the set. So I just put them in these boxes because it was easy for organization for me. You're going to have a scoring module down here. You're going to have your first player marker and these little bitty tokens, which are nice, but in the script a little bit. But they just kind of sit on here anyway of these tracking. So most of the board is going to be the scoring board, etc., which is nice. It looks kind of cool with the rounds over here. And then this is the rounds of the game. This is the rounds of what you'll be doing. And kind of a scoring thing. Everything else is going to be done in front of you, so there won't be a central board for that. I like the look of everything. It looks cool. So it looks like a keyboard or a laptop or a desk that you have here. You got your iPhone or tablet over here. Very nice.
Here is the rule book as you go through. Now, this is a really nice rule book. It's very colorful with a lot of pictures in it. Picture of all the components you got set up over here, and then it takes you through the entire game. Now, this is all in Portuguese, so I couldn't read any of it. So I had to go on Board Game Geek, and I had to print out English rules. These rules are very clear. There is a 2-player and a solo variant at the end. Very easy to understand. I didn't have any issues when I was going through. There's 4 types of draft as you're going through, and a lot of it is just self-explanatory with pictures. And there are plenty of pictures. It's all printed out in color. I didn't have any issues whatsoever. And here's the game set up. So this is going to track the number of turns, 1, 2, 3, and then the phases inside each one. So every time you go through a draft, you'll move this down until you're at the end. You'll have these little trackers that will keep track of here as you're going up on these, and this will be your secret stash. These are worth victory points at the end of the game, but as you use them when you're bidding, you'll have less and less. Then you have any number of these icons, which will be shaken up. You'll have one down here at the bottom, and you'll put the remainder up in here in different combinations, and this will just kind of tell you how things are going to score during the game. So this will be variable every time that you play. As you can see here, there are different types of these auctions or drafting that you're going to have. But so in the first one, you have Loja, SIBO, and conventions. But you'll see the site one on the internet you won't have. So you won't always have the same ones every single time. These are trackers that you're going to keep track of here. Whoever gets further up on this track will score points. So if in a 4-player game, whoever gets furthest up will get 15. And these are icons that you're looking in your collection. Up here, you're looking for certain heroes that you're going to have, certain things that you'll be collecting, and how many of those you get is going to be how many victory points you get. So if you get 8 to 11, you're going to get 24 points, etc. So that's kind of how the scoring will work. The first kind of drafting we're going to have is store, and this is going to use only the cards with number 1 on the back. What's going to happen is each player is going to have 4 cards, and this will become their starting hand. What you're going to do is look at the 4 cards that are drawn to you. You are going to keep one, play face down, and then you'll pass these on to someone else. At that point, the player will give you 3 cards, and you'll draft one of these face down, and you'll pass these on. That will continue until there are no more cards to pass. At the end of that, you're going to end up with 4 cards that you have drafted, and this will start out in your hand. The second type of draft will be using the number 2s. And what you'll do is you'll start this out with 4 rows of cards. Then what you can do on your turn is very simple. You can draw a card and put it in any row that you want. Then, if you're happy, you can take all cards in that row and add to your collection. If you're not, then the next player will go and they could add a card to any of the rows. They could add onto the row you're in or add any other row. At that point, they can take any row they want. It doesn't have to be the one they placed in. And this will continue on until somebody is able to take a row, and then that person will have cards from this round and be out. The most cards that can be a row is 4. Once a card has 4, the next player cannot add any more in it. It must go somewhere else. After each player has taken a row, this round of the drafting will end. The third type is called an auction. You'll use the ones with the number 3 on the back. What you're going to do is you're going to take 5 of these cards and put them face up here. You're going to do another row of 4. This is always going to be number of players contingent. We'll have another row of 4. And then finally, you're going to have a row of 3 that will encompass the bottom of this. So they're going to have a bunch of cards they can choose from. The 5s, the 4s, the 4, and 3. This is where the board of the secret stash will come in. Now, players will all start out, let's say here on the 15. So at the end of the game, if you did not buy any cards here, you would have 15 victory points at the end of the game. So you will bid on who gets to take cards first. So let's say green bids 5. And yellow says, that's too rich for my blood. Then he would pay 5 of these. So at the end of the game, he's only going to get 10 victory points. But he's going to choose which of these rows he wants more. It won't always be the most cards. It's exactly what you're trying to get as you get the icons or the heroes or etc. that you're trying to collect. So you're bidding on who gets to choose what row first. So let's say green took this, and then yellow bid 3, and they wanted to go next. They could take another row, whatever they wanted to take, and so on. And that will continue until everybody has a row. The last person to bid, obviously not bidding against anybody, they just play 1 point per card. At the beginning of the game, you set aside a number of cards from the 1, 2, and 3 deck that will go into the convention deck. So at this point, what you're going to do is you're going to put out a square of cards from that deck and a 5x5 grid. Here is the convention setup. You're going to have a 5x5 with a hole in the middle. What's going to happen in turn order 1, 2, 3, 4, then 4, 3, 2, 1, you're going to be able to move something over, and then you can take a row or a column. So let's say I wanted to take, and then you would choose a hero. So let me take a look at this for a second. Let's say I wanted to go here and I want to take all the Captain Americas. So these all three have Captain America icons on them, and they were in that column. So I could take these three. They don't have to be the same number on the back, just the hero. So the next player can go, let's say he's trying to collect Thor. So he's going to move this around. You can move his around in the space as much as you want. And he'll say, okay, this column, I want to take Thor. So he would take these 3 cards. That would continue to everybody's had 2 turns. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. Once everybody has taken 2 sets of cards, this round will end. Now that I've shown you how the 4 drafts are, you can see here that you won't have the same ones each time. And every time you get down to here, there's 3 times in the game, you'll be able to organize your collection. I'm going to show you how to organize the collection now. When you play cards in your collection, you always are looking to play heroes of the same kind. You have to have at least 2. In this place, I have 3 Thors. But in order for me to play this, I also have to pay the cost. If you look here on the left, there's going to be a number that will tell you how many cards I have to discard from my hand in order to pay for this. So 3, 3, and 7 would equal 8. So I'd have to have at least 8 cards in my hand of any value to discard in order to play these down into my collection. So whatever you have in your hand, it's all fine and dandy, but if you want to play something down, you're going to have to play it down by discarding cards. You can always move cards from collections, and sometimes they'll be in 2 different heroes. Now, these icons down here will move you up on the tracks that we found on the board down here. They can move you up, and that's why you want to play those, so you get higher on the track and score more victory points. Keeping in mind, at the same time, keep in mind at this time that more of these heroes will be more victory points as the game goes on. So all heroes are not considered equal. Well, let's say I had something like this, and I wanted to play these 3. Once again, 2, 4, 6. I have to discard that many cards to play them down. Later on in the game, if I started making an Iron Man collection, I could definitely move that in. After you go through all 3 turns, the game will end. Whoever has the most victory points is the winner.
Who should buy this game? Anybody who likes set collecting. If you like drafting cards, it's going to play really well. I'm thinking 8 and above, 8, 9, 10 and above should be able to grasp onto this. My 9-year-old didn't have any problems with it. He's kind of the gamer of the family. My little bit older 12-year-old, who's not a gamer, had no problems with this. It's really just about grokking those different types of drafting aspect. The collecting of it makes perfect sense. I think works great. The theme of the Marvel comics works brilliantly and perfectly here. There's very few topics I think that would be easily understandable to people collecting comics. People get that. It works brilliantly here. If you can track down a copy, I highly recommend it. Comic Hunters is a winner for us. Keeper.